G'day mates, welcome back to my YouTube channel. As you guys know, I've always been fascinated by mobile pros and specifically mobile battle royales, but I've never really given them a go myself. I've reacted to a whole bunch of people playing them, I've made a bunch of update and news videos on my channel, but I've never really dove into the world of mobile battle royales, and that's what I'm going to be doing today. I've been reached out to by Square Enix, who sponsored today's video to try out their new free battle royale on mobile, Final Fantasy VII First Soldier. And I've been a huge Final Fantasy fan since I basically started playing games. I've probably been playing Final Fantasy games for longer than most of you guys have been alive. So the fact they've moved into the battle royale genre and it's free and it's on mobile, which I've always wanted to try to get into some mobile games, I thought it was perfect, and I'm going to give you my thoughts and experience today because this game is actually so much fun. If you guys want to try out Final Fantasy VII First Soldier, like I said, it's completely free, so click the link in the description down below or go to the App Store or Google Play and download it. Straight out of the gate, you're going to notice that Final Fantasy VII First Soldier isn't your normal BR, and I mean this in the best way possible. It's because it's infusing RPG elements into the game, so bringing in elements like magic, a big emphasis on melee weapons. You've got mounts, you can summon your chocobo, which if you guys play Final Fantasy, you're super hyped about that like I am. It's just got all those extra elements on top of your regular Battle Royale experience. You've still got, pistols, assault rifles, SMGs, shotguns, sniper rifles, all your staples of a shooter Battle Royale, but then you weave in those magic elements and it's such a different experience in the best way. I've found that I've had the most fun playing Final Fantasy VII First Soldier using a lot of the melee elements and the magic. So I can drop down a low gravity shield and I can make people slow down. I can then push up and go and use my melee ability to close the gap on them as a warrior because there's different classes as well. Then I can start using my melee weapons to just basically beat down my enemy. I'm still using my weapons and I'm still using, my firearms because that is going to be an element of any battle royale. I always love sniping. You guys know this. So I find myself kind of using a sniper and assault rifle at that longer range, but if they're anything closer, if they're pushing me in a building, I'm almost always going sword mode, using the magic and kind of closing that gap. And it's been really, really fun to see those two elements be brought together because I've never really played that in a battle royale. I think the pacing and the size of this Battle Royale is perfect as well, having 75 players and the unique ability, and I've never seen this on any other Battle Royale, instead of, kind of where everyone goes in on the same plane or the same bus or whatever it is when it's a Battle Royale, having your own individual helicopter at the start where you get to go to where you want and gives you a far better idea of who's contesting you and who are the really, high population areas, made it really, really fun. So the pacing of this game felt incredibly smooth. I feel like 75 players was the right amount, and I think with that unique entry into the map, it lets you kind of pick, do you want to do a super hot drop? Do you want to do a safe drop? But you have that information before you drop. You're not just getting down, boots hit the ground, all of a sudden there's 8 people on you. You know they're there and you have far more control of where you go. And because of this, because you're starting in a helicopter, if you want to explore different areas of the map, because again, if you're a Final Fantasy fan like me, there is a whole bunch of really old, reminiscent, nostalgic places around this map, you can get there far more easily. I really love that entry system for a Battle Royale. Just like any other Battle Royale, as you play each round, you're going to level up and get better abilities, but because of this magic and RPG element, it feels even more rewarding. Not only are you now upgrading your weapons because you can get better weapons by, eliminating opponents or just finding them around the map or just looting them or getting them out of care drops, you can also then level up your abilities. So, for example, if you're playing the warrior like I was doing mostly, you have your main ability, there's a gap closer that gives you a bit of a shield, where if you're going to start focusing on melee and your enemy has an assault rifle, that's pretty helpful. As I level up more, that gets stronger and stronger, and it really helped me kind of adapt my playstyle to the way that I wanted to play the game. And also, because I was focusing mostly on spells and leveling up, I wasn't focused too much on looting. It let me play really, really aggressively. You can play more passive if you want to as well. It's a big map, there's a lot of areas, but I found that the part that I enjoyed the most was it was a very kind of run and gun fluid game style. There wasn't a lot of people camping, not a lot of people just sitting in corners. They were really playing it the way that I thought would be the most fun, but everyone was playing it differently. I would try to fight opponents who would be doing the opposite of me. They'd be using long range weapons and using their abilities to try to, keep the distance between me and them. I had other players who were utilizing, close range weapons like SMGs and pistols, trying to get close to me, but still, I found that I could still utilize my playstyle of that melee close range to a much better degree, but it didn't feel like it was overpowered or I found some kind of cheat code. I just found a playstyle that suited me. I think a very interesting element of Final Fantasy VII First Soldier as well is the fact that, yes, it's a Battle Royale and you lose your weapons and a lot of what you've gained each round. That's just pretty much how Battle Royales work. You do actually keep a lot of different levels and new abilities that you gain on your class throughout the round. So if you're finding a playstyle like I am and you're going all in on that playstyle and leveling up and practicing, you're going to improve and you're going to see some kind of benefit from that. And I find that really good. It's not such a big difference where if you start playing the game fresh, you're just going to get absolutely dominated by someone who's like level 1000 1000. It did not feel like that at all, but if you find one playstyle you really enjoy and you invest the time in it, you are getting some level of reward and advantage over your opponent, which I think is really cool. As far as my experience actually playing a mobile battle royale, I was really surprised at how fluid this felt. I was very, very pleasantly surprised that I picked this up quicker than I thought I would. I'm not going to try and say my aim was insane. I'm very, very new to mobile. Like I said, I wasn't playing on an emulator. I wasn't plugging a controller. I just downloaded it on my phone and I played. And the UI was really, really easy to use. Just moving, fighting, aiming, all of that felt good. The map, the inventory system, I've still got a long way to go. I've still got a lot of improvement to do when it comes to my aim and my movement, but I don't think that's hindered by the game. I think that's just my experience when it comes to mobile games. But straight out of the gate, I was having a lot of fun and I felt like I was holding my own. This wasn't a game where the skill ceiling was already set so high. I haven't played mobile games before, so I was just getting wrecked. I was actually doing quite well, and even when I lost though, I could see that it was just due to me being outplayed, and it was quite rewarding and I wanted to improve. So I'm going to find myself playing a lot more mobile games in the future. I was incredibly surprised at how fluid it felt. I always thought, I've gone from PC gaming my whole life, having keyboard, mouse, all that. I thought if you add it to a mobile, it was just going to feel a little bit clunky, but it was actually really, really smooth. The other unique element of Final Fantasy VII First Soldier that I've been a huge fan of is the NPCs and the mobs and the monsters around the map. A lot of them are ones very reminiscent of Final Fantasy, which adds a cool aspect, but I like the gameplay element they bring. If you want to level up, if you want to increase your abilities like I was just talking about, you'll find a whole bunch of different monsters around the map that you can then fight, who obviously aren't real characters ran by players, but they are mobs that still add that element to the game. It also means that in those in-between parts of Battle Royales that have always usually been one of the more negative parts of Battle Royales, just waiting for things to happen, you can fill that time with things that are actually progressing you in the game and feel quite fun, because they're not just, the same monsters. They're all different. They have different abilities and you have to fight them differently, and some of them can actually be quite challenging. So these fights in themselves are quite rewarding, and I found it also does kind of, attract players in a good way. It really does make the areas of the map where there's not as many players start to get more populated. You hear gunshots, you hear fighting, and you head towards that direction. Also, the healing system in this game with the potions feels very, very fresh. Popping a potion mid-fight is not a terrible experience. I don't have to stand there and start, popping a med kit or using something to heal myself back up. I get to instantly pop it, but then it does have a cooldown on it as well, so I can't just keep going through them. But it means if you create distance, if you play strategic, you use your spells, you can weave the healing into the combat without it having to be like a lot of battle royales where you have to finish the fight and then heal. I mentioned a little bit earlier in the video chocobos, and that's another thing that you can level up and kind of improve throughout the games. If you're a Final Fantasy fan, you know how cool this is. I feel like there's a cult following when it comes to chocobos. They're one of my favorite parts of almost any Final Fantasy. To see them in the game, but to see them be an actual core element, not just a vehicle that I can jump on and ride around on, but one that I can actually summon, and between rounds, I can improve its skills and its abilities and make it my own. It feels like it's my own chocobo in a battle royale. Again, increasing that progression element of not just improving a battle royales like they normally are, but having something to show for it between rounds. It's really cool. Overall, I think Square Enix has done an absolutely phenomenal job of Final Fantasy VII First Soldier. As someone who's been a Final Fantasy fan growing up all my life, but has found myself now playing Battle Royales, it's the game that I never really asked for and didn't think would come, but am so happy that it did. And again, if you're a Battle Royale fan, you're not a Final Fantasy fan, or alternatively, you're a huge Final Fantasy fan, but you don't really play a lot of Battle Royales, I think there's a lot to discover and enjoy for both different groups. It really is catering to everyone here. You get that unique Battle Royale experience of bringing in the magical elements, the RPG element, but then also you've got a lot of those, really reminiscent Final Fantasy moments. You've got the chocobos, you've got all the drop spots. It feels really, really cool, and I think it fits both so perfectly. So if you want to try it out, like I said, it's completely free. Download link will be in the description down below, or go to the Google Play or Play Store. And thank you again, big shout out to Square Enix for sponsoring today's video. I, as a creator, really appreciate the opportunity.